For 8 years, Melissa Sue Anderson and Melissa Gilbert played sisters on Little House on the Prairie. On screen, they both smiled. In every show, they hugged. But something was going on behind the cameras. From 1975 on, team members could see that the distance was getting farther. One girl stayed in her trailer by herself. The other one pulled jokes on the group. Everyone on set could see the stress by 1980. They didn't talk to each other again after the show was over. The truth finally came out in June 2025. You will be shocked by what really happened. She was born in Berkeley, California, on September 26, 1962. Her name is Melissa Sue Anderson. And her start was easy. James, her dad, fixed cars for a job. Maria stayed at home and took care of the family. Melissa was the oldest, so she helped her younger brother a lot and learned how to be responsible early on. Everything was fine until she was 9 years old. Her teacher noticed something about the way she carried herself at a dance performance. The teacher saw that she was calm and sure of herself in her steps, which was enough to persuade her parents to hire an agent. Soon after, she got an ad for Kmart with only one callback. It was her first small step into performing. She was 9 years old. Then, when she was 10, in 1972, she played Millicent on the Brady Bunch. People were amazed at how steady she was on camera, even though she only had a few words. In 1973, she played Kathy Mooter in Shaft's The Enforcers, but she wasn't given any fame for the role. Even though she was young, she played a girl who witnesses a crime ring and was in scenes that would have scared most kids. Before most kids even knew what an audition looked like, these early steps gave her a clear picture of what Hollywood was really like. Things got harder as she went on. She was already 11 years old when she felt the stress of being a type and how she looked. She paid attention to every little thing about her looks because she danced. So she didn't eat junk food and stayed on track, even when other kid actors took it easy between scenes. She chose to be alone most of the time instead of being around other people. She didn't want the wrong things to happen that would put her name in the news, so she behaved well and paid attention. It made her seem shy, but it kept her safe from the pitfalls that many young artists fell into. Still, there were times when the restraint was too much. She didn't get to do the silly things other kids did, but she thought that staying grounded was worth it. At a later time, she talked about how being shy made her want to be perfect. This unusual way of thinking helped her build a stable life at a time when many child stars were having trouble keeping it together. When she was 11, she started playing Mary Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie, which gave her more problems to solve. You had to be emotionally strong for the part. She had a hard time when she had to play Mary going blind. She learned about how young people learn to live with quick loss of sight while she was at the Foundation for the Junior Blind. She got more into the role because of the research and the weight of the scenes. In the show, Mary never got her sight back, and Melissa handled that plot with skill and patience. She was working a lot, but her real life was also changing. When she was 13, her parents split up. She was torn between job growth and the stress of her family falling apart. She still showed up and gave powerful acts that made people admire her strength. She stayed away from the other young actors and actresses and stayed focused. She had already grown as a person by the time she left Hollywood at age 19. A lot of people get there much later in life. The story of how she got into Little House was long. She answered an ad for the part of Mary Ingalls when she was only 11 years old, and she was up against more than 500 other girls. Many people tried out for the daughters, but Melissa's calm energy and mature appearance made her stand out. As soon as the pilot movie aired on March 30, 1974, she became one of the youngest stars on a national show. Everything began at that moment. Harvest of Friends, the first episode, had one of her first big roles. She had to lead her blind paw through a storm in the plains. Even though she was only 11 and hadn't done much before, Michael Landon wanted everyone to show real feeling and follow strict period speech. She had to hit her points, keep the fear in her eyes, and give the speech without stopping. She later said it was too much for her. Still, she did it, and when the show aired in March 1974, people praised her for being in charge and sensitive. When season 2 came out in 1975, Melissa was a part of stories that changed how fans saw Mary. In the episode The Richest Man in Walnut Grove, she played a young teacher who helped her family stay calm and know what was right and wrong. In messages, fans called her the moral compass of the Ingalls family. Filming often went on for 12 hours a day, but she stuck with it, carefully reading every script and staying focused even when she was tired. When things got tough on set, the praise from fans helped her stay strong. Behind the scenes, she went through some very scary things. In 1975, there was a love story between Mary and John Jr., who was played by Radamas Pura. Because Melissa is shy, the love scenes made her feel awkward, and she finally told the team to tone them down. They cared about how she felt and changed scenes, which was unusual for a young actress at the time. The group felt very confident in her and knew when to step outside of her comfort zone. In the long winter later that same year, she gave us another powerful moment. A scene with hypothermia was shot in real cold weather, and Michael Landon helped her with every move. It was really cold, and the stress stuck with her after filming was over. She later said that it made her feel uneasy when she had to do cold outdoor shoots. Still, when the episode aired in late 1975, viewers and reviewers were very upset. They praised her emotional strength for being only 13. With the 1976 show The Blind Man's Dog, which was part of Season 3, there was another tough test. She worked with real guide dogs and learned how to read their body language and cues. Each step had to be done 20 times before it was right. So the movements would feel normal. She practiced with trainers and vets. This mix of physical skill and emotional acting pushed her in a way that most kids never do. As part of the cast of James at 15 in 1977, she took a break from life on the plains for a while. She played Lacey Stevens, a girl who was going through a breakup and having a hard time with her feelings. Since she still had a job with Little House, people were curious about her plans to leave. Even though she was only 15, she already had a range that shocked people. Even though the pilot didn't lead to a series, the way she played the part changed how people in the business saw her. In Season 4, between 1977 and 1978, the episode I'll Be Waving As You Drive Away brought her the most attention. She had to give a long, moving speech about Mary's mother. She thought back to the time when her parents split up to bring the truth into the scene. Michael Landon was moved and pushed for the show to be listed for an Emmy. She was the only one in the Little House cast to ever be nominated for a Major Actress Award in a drama series in 1978. People who watched said they felt like they were crying with her. Some reviewers said it was one of the saddest things they had ever seen on TV. Then something shocking happened in 1978. The pyrotechnics didn't work at a classroom fire scene. Too close, the flames burned her outfit and made her feel very scared. She had her first panic attack on the job, and then she asked for better safety rules. A child actor was brave to speak out, but she knew it was the right thing to do. In the same year, she shocked everyone again when she became the song director for Hanna-Barbera's Happy Hour. Along with dancing, she also did acting and led artists through their routines. It was only on for 5 weeks. But it was a chance for her to try something fun and lighter. It showed she wasn't just Mary Ingalls. Even though everyone knew her as the quiet girl from Walnut Grove, it showed that she could change, adapt, and grow. In 1979, Melissa Sue Anderson was only 16 years old when she experienced something that would change her life forever. She won the Daytime Emmy for Best Individual Achievement in Children's Programming for the show Which Mother Is Mine, which aired after school on ABC. She played Alexandria Benton, a teen who finds out all of a sudden that she was adopted. The people in the business couldn't believe it when her name was called because she beat adults and won the award. She had been writing down her character's thoughts for weeks. Try to picture the fear and confusion of a girl who feels like the ground is moving under her. The judges could tell that her performance was real and raw when the show aired in May 1979. She won an Emmy for a lead part in children's programming when she was 16 years old, making her one of the youngest performers to ever do so. People looked at her differently after that win. After that, in April 1980, people saw her lose her sight. I'll Be Waving As You Drive Off in the two-part circle. She played Mary Ingalls, who had scarlet fever and was going blind. It was heavy on the makeup. The fake parts of her eyes made her eyelids hang down and her eyes look blurry. Valley Repertory Studios was the place where the picture was shot for 2 long weeks. Some days she wore the makeup for 12 hours straight. It drained her. She later said that she begged the producers to cut some parts because she was afraid she wouldn't be able to handle how she felt. That being said, she kept going and gave one of the most heartbreaking performances in the whole series. The show was up for an Emmy, and fans still think it's one of the best parts of Little House on the Prairie. In the same year, she had another sad story to tell. In the November 1979 episode May We Make Them Proud, Mary lost her fiancé Adam in a terrible fire that she started by accident. The movie was shot in Southern California during a heat wave, when the temperature kept going up above 90 degrees. She was already worn out from earlier fire scenes, and she lost so much water that she needed medical help on set. Still, she put everything she had into the scene with Adam's funeral. The way she broke down in tears was so real that the director only let her do it twice. People talked about that moment for years because they thought it showed she could be sad while also telling the truth in a painful way. Then, in May 1979, Survival of Dana came out. It was a CBS TV movie that was made in Los Angeles, at places like Sepulveda Dam and Encino. She played a teen from North Dakota that was getting used to living in the San Fernando Valley. The directors told her to make up lines about being alone and not fitting in. She also used the quiet time she had when she was away from home. Anderson put real parts of herself into the role of Dinah, who was bullied and had trouble figuring out who she was. With this project, she was able to step out of the shade of Anne Shirley for the first time. It was the story that made a lot of people believe she could write real, teen drama. Just 1 year before, in 1978, she went on a blind trip in season 7. It was dark when Mary tried to travel alone with a wagon train over rough terrain. She trained with the Foundation for the Junior Blind to get ready. There, she learned real Braille and used a cane a lot. She did scenes on set without any help, even crossing rough ground that hurt her ankle a little one time. People watched the show and believed her so much that some wrote letters thanking them for respecting the idea of a lasting disability. Her work in this plot became one of the things that made her famous. In the late 1970s, she made blindness look so real on TV that people still talk about it. In 1980, she got on the Love Boat as Jennifer Chubb Smith, a girl who was having problems with her body image. It wasn't like Little House on the Prairie, and it had swimsuits, water scenes, and a lot of attention on her looks. Afterward, she said she felt like an object because the part cared more about how she looked than how she could act. That part did teach her how hard it was to break out of a mold that people thought they knew. The show aired at a time when TV was beginning to talk about body image for teens, but her own discomfort showed how hard those parts could be behind the scenes. Then there was the fire at the School for the Blind in May 1979. We should be proud of them. The episode took Mary's baby and her teacher, Alice Garvey. It was split into 2 parts. A lot of times, Melissa Sue Anderson has said she can't watch it again. The noise, the smoke, and the sadness all seemed too real. Heavy fireworks were used on set, and she said she was scared for a long time after shooting was over. People liked how emotionally powerful the event was, but for her, it left scars that she kept to herself. With Midnight Offerings, which came out in February 1981, she moved into horror. She was Vivian Sutherland, a teen who could move things with her mind and was caught in a witchcraft-related fight. They put her on wires to make her levitate, and she felt nervous while she was in the air. The scenes were powerful, and at night, the supernatural parts mixed in with her dreams. She even needed therapy to get rid of her fears. The movie was part of a trend of scary movies for teens that were shown on network TV. It pushed her into new areas that tested both her skill and her mind. After season 8 of Little House in 1982, she left. He Was Strange, She Was Crazy was her last show. She cried when she had to say goodbye to the Walnut Grove set she had had since she was a kid. At age 19, she was scared that she would always be Mary Ingalls. She said over and over that she wanted new things to do. Some papers said she was fired for having a bad attitude, but she later said she turned down a pay cut and both of them agreed to leave. It was clear to everyone again in 1984 that she had made the choice because she wanted a bigger job, not because of any trouble behind the scenes. During that time, she made one of her bravest choices. She played Virginia Wainwright, a student at a nice New England school, in the 1981 killer movie Happy Birthday to Me. The movie became well known for its crazy murder scenes. It took days for her to get rid of the fake blood that they used, which was more than 100 gallons. She was even written as the killer at one point, but the writers changed their minds because she was so good at being the nice girl. For the twist finish, they made a latex mask of her face. She said that the plot of the story about the loss and brain injury came from reading about real events. Horror fans still remember how it added a tense psychological layer to the whole show. In 1982, she came back to TV in the show Innocent Love, where she played Molly Rush, a student in college who gets involved with a 14-year-old math tutor in a relationship that causes a lot of trouble. The subject got interest across the country. She got ready by looking into real cases of teens being exploited and problems caused by age gaps. She even told the movie's makers to tone down some scenes so it wouldn't become too shocking. The movie was filmed at the University of Washington, and she snuck into classes to watch how people moved and talked. Few people liked it when it aired. Some people liked how sensitive she was, while others were worried about the concept. Still, it showed that she was mature enough to handle tough tales. In 1983, the next year, she played Toby King in First Affair. The story was about a freshman in college who started an affair with a tutor. She went to UCLA and went to classes there in secret for weeks to make it feel real. She went to classes, watched how students talked to teachers, and even turned in fake work. The film looked real because it was shot on college campuses. More people disagreed about whether or not the subject belonged on network TV, but critics praised her performance. They said she anchored the drama with a calm, believable style that came from doing a lot of study. On a calm October night in 1984, Melissa Sue Anderson walked into the murder world. She wrote the show Hooray for Homicide and played Eve Crystal in it. She was on a busy Hollywood set across from Angela Lansbury when the show aired on October 28. Being able to work with her taught me a lot. It was fun for Angela to change things up at the last minute, and Melissa had to keep up. In the end, she said those times taught her how to adapt to quick changes while still staying steady in the scene. It made me want to become a director again. Because she saw that every change behind the camera had an effect on everything that was in front of it. The episode was different from the others because it used a lot of flashbacks and showed the murder in a way that the show normally didn't. Most of it was filmed on site, and each room had makeup and props that were meant to make the actors look uncomfortable and real. This job was one of the first that pushed Melissa toward more grown-up roles after her Little House years. It made her feel like she had moved into a new part of her life. Soon after, she tried something else. She did voice work for Spider-Man and His Wonderful Friends between 1982 and 1983. She played Kitty Pryde, who was also known as Sprite, and taped her songs in a studio in Burbank. Every day was almost 4 hours long. Her storyboards were shown to her before each take so she could picture how the character breathed and moved. Because she had been dancing, she let her speech move with the character's body, making it seem like she was doing the poses in her head. Early voiceover tricks were used on the show, and she was sometimes asked to record 2 or 3 different tracks for one action scene. Later, her fans said that her voice was just right for Kitty Pryde because it was full of worried energy and fast energy. Her work set a small but important bar for superhero cartoons that came after. Then, in 1986, she went into the dark halls of Dark Mansions. She played Noelle Drake, who was torn between family secrets and creepy ghostly moments. A Gothic-style old house was used for the shoot. It had fog machines, trapdoors, and mechanical effects that squeaked in the dark. The mood was always creepy, and the work was hard. One night, a piece of the set fell and hurt a cast member. Even though it was nothing major, it made everyone more careful about physical scenes after that. The plan wasn't easy. They worked for 3 weeks straight, most of the time at night, and it took up to 7 hours to do her makeup. Even though she was under a lot of pressure, her acting was honest and tense, which fit the story. Afterward, some people said she looked like she was really scared, not just playing scared. After a short time, she was on the rough streets of Manhattan for The Balancer. In 2 shows that aired on February 4, she played Yvette Marcel. And February 11, 1987. The character she played saw mob violence and was shocked by it. Melissa used method acting to get through those feelings, but it hurt her body so much that she got terrible headaches. After 1988, she knew she had to be more careful about the parts she took on because they carried too much emotional weight. The show was shot over 10 days, and there were many rewrites at the last minute. Still, she felt supported by director Tony Warmby, who told her not to be afraid to explore her role. She thought about how true the mob stories were for years. She often said that these shows were the hardest work she had ever done. By 1990, her work on Dead Men Don't Die had turned into something strange and fun. She played the psychic Dulce Niles, who worked with a zombie detective. A lot of the shooting took place in cold Los Angeles alleys at night. Some shoots went straight from midnight to 5 in the morning. She slowly got more and more tired until she felt like she had no air left in her lungs. So, she took a long break after the movie was over. Director Malcolm Marmerstein told the actors to make up scenes on the spot a lot, mostly to keep everyone awake and alert. The money was tight. So, the crew found clever ways to use props in places more than once. Even though it was hard, the film was one of the things that pushed her to become a producer and writer because she wanted to have more control over the work she took on. Another Melissa Gilbert, had started her own road many years before, when she was only 2 years old. In 1966, she made her screen debut in an Alpo dog food commercial. With Lorne Greene, who later played her grandpa on the TV show Little House on the Prairie. By the time she was 3, she was already a well-known face in commercials. In one for Quaker Oats, she said lines while laughing naturally. There were more than 50 commercials she was in before 1972, which gave her the courage to start doing shows on TV. She quickly got roles in TV shows like Gunsmoke and Emergency. Always with the same easy ease she had when she was a child. All of this set her on the path to Little House when she was 9 years old. After a few years, she worked on The Diary of Anne Frank, which aired when she was 16 years old in 1980. She learned about the Holocaust for 6 weeks, met survivors, and read Anne's works over and over again. This study made her feel heavy during her performance. She was nominated for an Emmy for it, and she says it was one of the most important jobs of her young life. Things between the two Melissas got worse behind the scenes of Little House as their jobs grew. People liked how well they got along in early shows, like Country Girls, where they carried milk crates and churned butter together. They changed as people, though, not in the same way. While she was on break, Melissa Sue often stayed quiet and read or studied lines. Melissa Gilbert moved around on set and hid lunchboxes or switched out props. At first, it was just for fun, but by 1977, their different personalities were starting to show. The girls didn't seem very close to each other to the crew, even though the crowd saw them as perfect sisters. In 1979, Mary's blindness curve made the gap bigger. She spent a lot of time alone in her trailer and took method acting very seriously. She avoided getting together with other people, even when the cast tried to relax together. Melanie Gilbert didn't feel like she had a voice in a plot where her character was supposed to cheer up her sister. When things got really tense, the leaders stepped in and asked Melissa Sue nicely to join the group meals. By November 1979, her practicing by herself had become a habit, which made the space between them feel even bigger. Up until 1980, a new layer had formed. It was clear that both girls were changing as they grew up. Melissa Sue began to wear long nails and makeup, which became her signature style, and she looked more grown up. She wrote in her 2009 autobiography that she felt left behind. She was hardly noticeable, but her friend looked older and better put together. Cast members' compliments on Melissa Sue's calm added fuel to the fire. As the story spread, reporters made everything sound worse than it really was, and soon everyone thought they were competing for Michael Landon's attention. After the fact, both said the stories were exaggerated. Their lives took different turns after Little House ended in 1982. Melissa Gilbert stayed out in public and went on to lead the Screen Artists Guild from 2001 to 2005, where she fought for the rights of young artists. Melissa Sue quit Hollywood and moved to a place with less noise. She made a world away from cameras and the press when she became a Canadian citizen in 2007. As time went on, their paths naturally crossed. People kept looking for signs of a fight, but both women said it was never that dramatic. People still talked about it in the 1980s and after. Magazines talked about fights and competitions that didn't happen. The stories were kept alive on online platforms. Back in the 1990s, both actresses rejected the claims. Melissa Sue said that most of it was because people didn't understand how shy she was. I agreed with Melissa Gilbert and said the whole thing was made up. Then, in June 2025, a small house party brought a lot of understanding. Melissa Gilbert, who is 61 years old, spoke out and said that they had been quiet over the years because they had different personalities. One liked being still and quiet. The other person liked talking to other people. They just moved away over time. Fans were shocked to learn that there hadn't been any big breakups. More than 2 million people watched a deep dive on YouTube about the meeting, and Gilbert made her point again in a calm and honest way. They had respect for each other. They weren't even close. Melissa Sue Anderson's autobiography from 2009 added to the story. She wrote about how hard it is to deal with sad stories, like the fire episode from 1979 where her character's child is left in a house that is on fire. Even though it wasn't a real event from history, the set looked so real that it scared her very much. She said those scenes made her feel traumatized even after all these years. Fans had a new view of her silence after reading that part of the book. A lot of people didn't know how heavy she was.